Hello and welcome to Radiance Revealed, the podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Jen Haley. I'm a board-certified dermatologist, fitness enthusiast, nutrition expert, and global explorer that over the years has uncovered that your skin is a true representation of your internal health. Each week, we will chat with leading health, wellness, and even spiritual experts who will reveal secrets to true health and vitality. My goal is to help you change small habits to give you the power to create a more balanced, aligned, and elevated version of yourself. Now let's dive in. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to this week's episode of the Radiance Revealed podcast. I'm your host, board-certified dermatologist, Dr. Jen Haley. And for those of you listening for the first time, let me reintroduce myself. So I am a board-certified dermatologist for over 20 years. And my background is in nutrition. I studied nutritional sciences at Cornell University, and I've always been into fitness, whether it was, as a teenager or in college or doing fitness competitions as an adult. I've always been into challenging my body. And I bring all of those together while syncing with nature. So that's my goal for you, is to always give you tools of things that you can do at home in the most natural way, as well as science-backed things that you do in the office with Western medicine. So I've been in the health optimization, longevity, biohacking space since about 2016, when I was first asked to speak at the AMMG conference. And when you're a speaker at these conferences, they let you sit on other lectures. And that's when I was first introduced to the world of exosomes, hormone treatment, peptides, and all of the other things that not necessarily were backed by science at the time, but now are slowly getting rolled in. So as an athlete, as somebody who has always been into nutrition, we just always tend to want to hack and get an edge over everyone else. So I've always had that interest in my personal life, and I brought it into the clinic with my patients. So for acne, for instance, I've always been recommending special diets for my acne patients, and then supplements and some other things that they can do. And the cool thing is while clearing the skin, I see this cascade of other health benefits, such as weight loss, increased vitality, improved sex drive, more energy, more confidence so that people can get the jobs that they want and have the relationships they want. And that's really what I love to do. So I do this podcast for fun. I do it because I want to share the information that I've accumulated over all of these years. And I have also been doing another podcast called Listen to Your Skin by Moon and Skin. And you can find that if you want to find more information. I do some individual episodes, and I also have a lot of guests on there, dermatologists, estheticians, makeup artists, and we just educate you about your skin and your health because they're interrelated. And anyone who's listened to me will understand that your skin is an organ. All of our organs are communicating at the same time. So when our skin is inflamed, it's usually an indication that something else within us is also inflamed. And our body systems are not separate. They're all interconnected. So your skin is representing the inside of your body. So the reason I fell in love with dermatology is because I could look at somebody's skin and see what's going on inside of their body. We don't have all the answers. We're getting there every year more and more. And I learned so much from my patients and from the listeners when you ask me questions. So please know that I will always try to be as accessible as possible. You can send me a direct message on LinkedIn, on Instagram at Dr. Jen Haley. And I don't think we could do messages on Threads, but you can find me in those two places. And I will answer your questions on these podcast platforms. My goal for this podcast moving forward at this time is to answer the most pressing questions in about a 20-minute podcast. So today, what are we talking about today? We're going to talk about eye issues. So 4 big issues that I hear about all the time with the eyes. I hear about bags under the eyes. I hear about droopy eyelids. I hear about dark circles under the eyes. and all about hollowing under the eyes. So we're going to break those down, talk about what you can do at home, what you want to go to your dermatologist for, and when you may need surgery or more invasive procedures, depending on how bad it bothers you, right? Because at the end of the day, all of these things are elective procedures, right? They're not life or death. It's just a matter of what your priorities are. So when we look at ourselves, what we notice isn't always what other people notice. And even though I do aesthetics for a part of my job, there's over 3,000 diagnoses in dermatology. So aesthetics is a small part of that. Often I'm diagnosing other conditions, rashes and skin cancer and things like that. Aesthetics is a small part, and I know how to aesthetically evaluate someone. But what I really believe after doing it for so many years on people that can afford any procedure under the sun, I think that the way we actually ultimately see each other is through energy. So I always want people to focus on becoming centered, accepting yourself, aligning with yourself, and being authentic with yourself, because there's really nothing more beautiful in this world than someone who shows up as their authentic being. And that's what I want for you. In the meantime, I will certainly give you tips on how to show up to be uh, your most beautiful self, however you want to define that. Okay. You get to define that for yourself. Don't let society define them. Okay. So let's jump in. First thing I have here is bags under the eyes. So bags, puffiness under the eyes. I think it's very genetic. Very, very genetic. Some people tend to be more prone to this than others. If you look online, it will say avoid salt, that kind of thing. I don't think that makes that big of a difference, because if you have healthy kidneys, if you have salt and you have plenty of water, your body won't retain fluid. Okay. So just make sure you have plenty of water. Adding salt to your diet is less harmful than salt from processed foods. So if someone is struggling with bags under their eyes, the first thing I want them to do is to, excuse me, is to focus on an anti-inflammatory diet. And what does that really mean? That means low inflammatory foods. And you can look it up. There's guidelines out there. But what I basically have people do is have real foods. Have a real food. You have a piece of chicken, or you have a piece of salmon, or you have a piece of steak, and then you have some vegetables. Pasta is processed. Rice is processed. I do consume carbs. I exercise a lot. I need them. I don't need them, but I perform better with some carbohydrates. It just depends on the time of the year. But you want to find the thing that's the least processed, like potatoes or sweet potatoes, things like that. So real foods are always going to be better than something that's processed or packaged. So really anything that has one ingredient is going to be better than something that is in a package that has multiple ingredients. I also am not a fan of dairy because I've seen it cause so much inflammation in people. Now, the thing with dairy is that it doesn't cause inflammation in everyone. But if someone is aiming for an anti-inflammatory diet to reduce inflammation in their body, I will have them stop all dairy for 6 weeks. And then once you are rebalanced and you've found your homeostasis without dairy, if you reintroduce it, you will know if you are one of those people that is affected by dairy. For me, for instance, if I have dairy, which I do, I love it. I'm a cheesemonger. I love cheese. So when I eat cheese, I will notice the scale is up 3 pounds the following day. I will retain fluid with it. And I'm willing to pay that price. Sometimes I want to enjoy the pizza. You just have to know the consequences, and they're short-term consequences. So it doesn't matter for the short term. What does matter is if you're consuming it every single day, day in and day out, if it affects you. But I would urge everyone listening to stop the dairy, stop sugar, stop processed foods. Give it 6 weeks, and you could see how your body changes once you reintroduce things after that period of time. So go towards an anti-inflammatory diet. Now, it might be counterintuitive to add more water if you're puffy, but remember, dilution is the solution to pollution. So if there is a swamp or stagnation, like stagnation under the eyes, for instance, if you get a river to run through a swamp, it will clear out all of the stuff, right? And that's what we want. We want good lymphatics, good blood flow, and we want more water to cleanse the area, to get those lymphatics moving. So increase water with electrolytes, because otherwise the water is not going to get into the cells. So increase water with electrolytes. I often like fulvic acid and humic acid, which I get from a company called Beam Minerals. And there's no conflict of interest there. And you can find it in other places as well. These fulvic and humic acids should come from our soil, but they don't, because unless you are living somewhere where there's a lot of volcanic activity and you're farming yourself, you're just not getting these. So we need to add it back into our diet. And drinking a lot of water and then getting the lymphatics flowing. So how do we get the lymphatics flowing? Movement, lots and lots of movement. Every time you walk, you pump the muscles in your calves. Those muscles squeeze the lymphatics and bring things all over the place. The best trick for lymphatic flow, there's 3 of them that I have. First is one of those vibration plates. I wish I had one in my house, but they're really expensive and they're really heavy. So that's not a practical thing for me. Some gyms have them. There's vibration plates that you can go on. Number 2 is a rebounder. And I do plan on getting a rebounder. It's basically a little trampoline, a little mini trampoline you could do for about 10 minutes a day. And that really gets the lymphatics flowing. And number 3, I just do jumping jacks. So this morning I noticed my eyes were a little puffy, and I think I'm dealing with some allergies because I'm kind of congested as well. And I just did 25, 30 jumping jacks. And I'll do that a couple times a day. And that gets the lymphatics sort of like moving and just shaking about. So that's a really, really easy, accessible, zero cost trick that you can do at home. So the other thing that you can do at home is look for eye creams that contain caffeine, because caffeine is a vasoconstrictor, which means it tightens up blood vessels. So you look for an eye cream with caffeine, and that can help with some of the puffiness. And then ice rollers are kind of trending right now, and you can get an ice roller if you have a Zoom call, or you're going to get on camera, or you have a hot date and you notice that you're puffy. Go to your jumping jacks, drink a lot of mineral water, and then get an ice roller and roll it under your eyes. That's another nice thing that you can do. And if you notice that you are having more swelling in the morning when you wake up, then you may need to elevate the bed at night. Elevate your pillow up a little bit, like 45 degrees or even 30 degrees, so the fluid doesn't pool under your eyes. But if it's positional eye swelling, then it should dissipate and get better throughout the day. Now, some people just have genetic eye bags. And what happens to our fat over time is we have these fat pads under our eyes. So if you can see me on camera, you have your eyelid margin, and then there's fat pads underneath, and they tend to fall over time. And that's part of the natural changes of our face. Let's be honest, gravity wins, right? So if you have actual fat pads under the eyes, you may require a lower lid blepharoplasty, where the plastic surgeon will go in and remove those fat pads. The other thing we can do is sort of an optical illusion. Without having surgery under your eyes, filler can be placed to make the area look more contoured. So there's not such a contrast between the pooching out fat pad and then a divot. So filler can be placed. I'm not a huge fan of hyaluronic acid fillers under the eyes, because I find that what happens is it migrates. And personally, I had this happen. I had it put under my eyes after the birth of my second son in 2008. And I should have known. because I went to the ENT doctor. I said, hey, Restylane was just FDA approved. I said, can you put it under my eyes? And he said, oh, I never heard of that before, but I could do it. Well, 10 years later, I was in clinic with one of my dermatology colleagues. She goes, oh, you have filler under your eyes, and it looked like it migrated down to your cheek. And you could see it across the room. It looks like a blue bleb on the top part of your cheek from across the room because of the way the light is reflecting on the skin. And I've just seen this time and time again over the last 15 years where filler under the eyes, even if it's placed perfectly, it tends to move and migrate and it doesn't go away and it just doesn't look right most of the time. Of course, there are success stories. But what I do like under the eyes is I do like PRF. So PRF is basically platelet-rich fibrin. So it's placed under the eyes. I've had this treatment myself, and it's placed under the eyes. You're puffy for a couple days, and then it goes away. And the platelet-rich fibrin, it stimulates your own collagen to form. So it's a very natural thing that can be done. It doesn't always take because your body doesn't always respond by making fresh collagen. But when it does, it's very natural. So that's what I like. Okay, so that's bags under the eyes. It really depends on the cause. If you're listening, I try the at-home things for a good 3 to 6 months. And then if you're not getting the results you want, go seek consultation with either a plastic surgeon or a board-certified dermatologist, depending on where you want to step up. Do you want to try the PRF? Do you want to go straight to surgery, blepharoplasty? Okay, now let's talk about droopy eyelids. So heaviness here. Gravity again, once it always wins. So there's an eye drop called Upneeq that can help. I think it's oxymetazoline, but it's Upneeq, Upneeq, and you could put it in the eyes and it lasts like 12 hours-ish, and it can help lift the droopy eyelids temporarily. So some people like to do this every day. Some people get a really nice response from it, and other people look a little crazy. Like if you could see me on the video, they would just look a little crazy looking, like their eyes are popping out. So, try it on a day that you're not going anywhere and see how it works for you. Or maybe try it before you go to bed and take a look and then see if you like it before you do it during the daytime. I personally haven't tried it. I've noticed getting a little droopy myself, and I'm thinking about doing it. I just haven't tried it. And at the end of the day, I'm a little lazy, I'll just admit. And I don't know the current price point for it. It used to be pretty expensive. Okay, the second thing that you can do, which I like to do for drooping of the upper eyelids before anybody goes to surgery, is you can do a couple things. Like, why are the eyelids drooping? It could be because, if you could see me on camera, it could be because there's too much Botox in the forehead. So I'm lifting up my hair here. So if I raise my brows, that's the only thing raising up my forehead muscle is the only thing raising up my brows. So if someone is getting too much Botox in their forehead, and it lowers the brow. You could see this online. So make sure that you're not getting Botox or one of the other 4 currently FDA approved neuromodulators that weaken muscles, because there are no solutions. There's only trade-offs. So if you want to get rid of your forehead lines and you weaken the muscle, you won't be able to raise your brow as successfully, and then you'll get a heavy brow. So a lot of people don't want that trade-off. The other thing that you can do if you're noticing that your brows are heavy and you haven't had a lot of Botox in your forehead is consider getting filler in your temples. So as we get older, I really hope you could see me on video. If not, go to the YouTube, because I'm pointing to my own face. So if, as we get older, we lose subcutaneous tissue from our temples, so our temples get more concave over time. So by putting filler or a biostimulatory product such as Sculptra into the temples, it will expand the temples and raise up the brows. Kind of looks like I need it right now, doesn't it? Okay. So I like Sculptra in the temple. It's a more safe one to use in that area. And the way it works is it's inserted into the area and it's not an actual filler. So you will see expansion of the area over about 24 hours. You'll see the swelling, and then it goes away. And then you wait for your body to create new collagen over the next 2 to 3 to 4 months. So it's not always predictable. Some people really respond to these biostimulatory agents, such as Sculptra, by creating a lot of collagen, and some people not so much. So one vial might be enough for one person, and another person might need 2 or 3 vials or treatments. But really, typically, one vial is a good place to start in the temples and then wait. And it's nice because it's so natural because you can start and there's no dramatic effect right away. And then over the next 2 to 3 months, you just start looking a little bit better, but it's so minor that no one will say, "What did you have done?" Right? We never want anyone to say that. So you can see, I'm going to pull back my hair on this side. So you could see if I expand this temple, my brow just lifts up a couple millimeters and it looks really natural, right? So I like to consider adding fillers to the temples and making sure not too much Botox or neuromodulators are in the forehead before we even take a look at why the eyelids are drooping. Those are important because sometimes what we're doing is causing a problem somewhere else. So even though we're removing the lines from the forehead, now it's lowering the brow. So that's important to keep in mind. You can also have laser and ultrasound to the face to bring everything up and tighten. Something like soft wave or something like Ulthera, which are ultrasound, can pull everything back. A little painful, but I've seen it work. And then you can also do resurfacing. So if you've had a lot of sun damage and a lot of sagging from that, and it's a skin quality issue, then sometimes a laser resurfacing with like an erbium or a CO2 can certainly help with the drooping of the eyelids. And then at home, I sometimes will just have people use retinol. I find over the years that while people will use a lot of the active serums to their entire face, they are afraid to put them on their eyelids. So as long as you're not getting products in your eyes, you're usually fine. Just treat the eyelid skin and the neck and the chest like you do your face if you want it to all age the same. So if we're trying to stimulate collagen and cell turnover, we want to do it everywhere. We don't want to leave out the eyelids and we don't want to leave out the neck or the chest. So obviously, if you have eye problems, check with your eye doctor before you put anything near your eyes. But that's just something I've personally done for the last 25 years. Okay, so the third issue that I hear about is eye hollowing under the eyes. And at home, once again, make sure you're applying your vitamin C serum in the morning to all the skin because vitamin C is necessary to create collagen. It also will help uh, bank your collagen or prevent collagen breakdown. So I apply everything that I apply to my face to around my eyelids. And then at night, your retinoids. So make sure you're doing this on the regular, okay? And anything you do with skincare, give it about 3 months to start working. The second thing is I have seen hollowing. This is my observation. I do not think it has been reported in our journals, but I have observed this over the years because I've been doing Botox and other neuromodulators since the 1990s, before it was FDA approved. And I find that doing too much neuromodulator, Botox, all the other brands around the eyes for crow's feet, the way the product works is it weakens the muscle. And then when the muscle can't move, the lines don't form, right? And we want our muscles to move so we can communicate with each other. We just don't want them to move very deeply to form lines. So I equate it to, if you can see me on video again, if I take my little muscle here, my bicep, and I put this arm in a cast, right? And I take my arm out of the cast in 3 months, what's going to happen is the muscle's going to be atrophied. It's going to be weak. So anyone who's had their arm in a sling or a cast for 6 to 8 weeks, they take it out and that muscle's way weaker than the other side. That is basically what we're doing with Botox and other neuromodulators. We're causing muscle atrophy. We're weakening the muscles so they can't move and they can't make lines, right? But when you look around the eyes, we don't have a lot of fat. We have our skin, and our epidermis around our eyes is the thinnest in the body. And then we basically have a teeny little skinny muscle and hardly any fat. And as I mentioned earlier, the fat pads droop over time. So if we are atrophying and we're causing weakness of the muscle around the eye, we don't have any support. And what's happening with repetitive, aggressive Botox treatments around the eyes over 15 years is we're causing hollowing of the eyes because now we basically have skin with very weak muscle lying on bone. And that is accentuating the hollowing under the eyes. So make sure less is more. When you're getting your Botox or other neuromodulator treatment, less treatment is more. Less movement, not frozen, right? Just less movement so the muscle does not completely atrophy and skin isn't lying on bone in 10 years, causing a hollowed out look. It's a really important long-term perspective. The other thing you can put with the hollowing, we talked about the PRF. The PRF works wonderful for hollowing. I like the PRF for hollowing that I had mentioned with the eye bags. So PRF is a great option, and filler can be an option as well. But I do find that it migrates, and I don't love hyaluronic acid fillers under the eyes. I love it elsewhere. The other optical illusion from an aesthetic perspective that can be done for under eye hollowing, often there's hollowing under the eyes, if you could see me on video. And if we fill the cheeks, it actually brings up the area under the eye and it makes it look less hollow. I live in Scottsdale, let's be honest here. I live in Scottsdale. There's a lot of overdone filler. So you don't want to overfill your cheeks to compensate for hollowing. But if you have not had filler, if you're a filler virgin and you're, in your 30s or 40s or 50s, you can put a couple syringes in your cheeks and it won't look overdone. It'll look natural. So it might be worth a shot doing that. Make sure somebody knows what they're doing and they're trained and it's the right filler with the right G prime, the right substance for the cheek area. So you get the durability of 12 to 18 months, and it also moves when your face moves. This is very, very important. And that's about it for hollowing. That's all I have in my notes here for hollowing. And then the last thing I'm hearing about a lot right now because it's allergy season is dark circles. So dark circles under the eyes. So anywhere there's inflammation, our body typically responds with redness and inflammation and pigment. So think about when you have a scratch, a burn, or a pimple. How does your body respond based on your skin type? So I'm half Spanish, so I will get dark spots everywhere. If I have a pimple or a scratch or a mosquito bite, it will hyperpigment afterwards. If I get a treatment or a scar, I will hyperpigment afterwards. If you are someone that tends to get a pink area afterwards, you still may have pink under your eyes if you're rubbing your eyes from allergies. So the number one thing when somebody has dark circles under their eyes, I want to make sure they're not constantly rubbing the area, because constantly rubbing the area, whether it's a habit, you're wiping your corners of your eyes, you're doing whatever you do, we do these habitual things, that will always cause discoloration of the area. So what is your lifestyle? What are you doing? Do you have any habits contributing to this? And if the answer is yes, then take a break, give it some time, and it will resolve over time, just like a discolored scar resolves over about 6 months. So avoid rubbing. The other thing for dark circles that works nicely is the ice roller. So you can do some ice rollers, because a lot of times dark circles, if they're not caused by post-inflammatory hyperpigment or erythema from the rubbing or inflammation, they're caused from extra blood vessels to the area. So by ice rolling under the area, it can help constrict some of those blood vessels. And in the same fashion, so can eye cream that contains caffeine that can help to constrict the blood vessels in the area if the cause is an abundance of blood vessels to the area. And something that I found works really nicely, because I love nature and I love little nature tricks, and I think this is also just a nice thing to do for yourself, is to take a couple cotton rounds and dip them in cold rose water, cold compresses, and put those on your eyes and just lie there for about 10 minutes if you have the time. I just find my patients really like that when they do the cold compresses with the rose water, especially before a big event, if they want to reduce the dark circles under their eyes. And If you're using the caffeine eye cream, you can boost the effects with retinol before you're applying the eye cream. I only do retinol around the eyes about 3 times a week. Otherwise, I find that it can cause some irritation. But long term, I definitely find that it can help. And then once again, if none of those things have helped you, now go see your board-certified dermatologist because you may want to consider laser. If there's a solitary blood vessel, you can often do a laser to the area. Make sure that there's eye protection inserted in your eyes because the laser can damage your eyes permanently. So go to someone who's reputable, who knows exactly what they're doing. But if you have one of those blue vessels running right through, it's great for laser. And there are some other lasers that can help resurface the area to help with this issue. And then PRF can sometimes help. So these are some of the things that you can do for all of your eye issues. And if there's something that I didn't cover that you're still curious about, or something that you feel that I didn't explain in depth as much as you would want to hear, please let me know. Do not hesitate to reach out to me anytime. I'm totally here for you, 100%. And if you like this episode and you think one of your friends would benefit from it, please share it with them. Rate and review the podcast. I would find that very helpful. I'd very much appreciate it. And then if you subscribe, you will be notified when I have new episodes because I tend to get a little inconsistent over the summer. But the more I'm nudged, the more I'm going to create episodes for you. And that's about it for eyes. So we'll leave it at that. Have a wonderful week, everyone. Bye. If you're enjoying the Radiance Revealed podcast, please don't forget to subscribe so you'll always know when there's a new episode. And while you're at it, please give us a review, as that helps others to find this podcast. And if you want to connect with me, please visit my website, drjenhaley.com, or you can find me on Instagram at drjenhaley.
Hello, everyone. Just a friendly reminder that this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only. The statements and views expressed on this podcast are not medical advice. Opinions of guests are their own, and this podcast does not endorse or accept responsibility made for statements made by guests. Neither this podcast nor any of the information contained within it are a substitute for care by a qualified medical professional. This podcast is provided with the understanding that it does not constitute medical or professional advice or services. If you are looking for help in your journey, please seek out a qualified medical practitioner.